We are studying today page 10, Daf Yud of the Talmud of Sotah for the ninth day of studying. And here we continue talking a little bit about Shimshon, that Shimshon's mother was told because Abimelech, his descendants, who were the Plishtim, the Philistines, did not keep their oath that they made Abraham and his children, that they will subjugate the Jewish people and fight against the Jewish people. So they didn't keep their oath. So therefore the Jewish people will not keep their oath, and they will destroy Abimelech as well, because when Abimelech and Abraham made a pact with each other, it was dependent on both sides keeping the pact. When they broke the pact, we were able to break the pact as well. One of the ways that Shimshon, we're told, was blessed is that he was able to have many offspring. Even though he was young, he was like very mature person. After his eyes were poked out, he turned to God and he prayed to him, God, give me one more chance to avenge the Philistines for all they had done for me. And what was his prayer? So the Talmud tells us his prayer was that for 22 years that I judged the Jewish people, I never asked any of them for any reward, and I never even asked any of them to do a favor for me. I was very straight and honest and never allowed anything to influence me and never used anybody. So in that merit, let me have extra strength this one time to get back against the Philistines. And then we're told that he captured 300 foxes, and he tied the tails together and he lit them up. Why specifically foxes? So it's very symbolic, because the foxes, when you chase them, they run backwards. He said the people of the Philistines who are turning back against the oath that their great-great-grandfather Abimelech took, so therefore he captured the foxes as a symbol to overcome a people who go back on their oath. We are told that Shimshon was incredibly big, that his shoulders were as wide as 60 cubits, because we're told that he picked up the doors of Gaza and he put it on his shoulders, and the doors of Gaza were very big, as wide as his shoulders, and we know that they were 60 cubits. When he was put into prison, it says that he grinded. It means that everyone was bringing them their wives to be able to impregnate them with his power and his seed, which has great power with it. The Talmud tells us as a byproduct that if someone starts being immoral, then his wife will follow on the same path as well. Meaning you bring immorality into your home and you'll find immorality happen by both spouses. Another thing we're told about Shimshon is that Shimshon was very similar to God. God judged alone. Shimshon judged alone. He stood on his own and he judged in a way on his own. He led the people. Shimshon also told carries God's name, because it says that God is the sun and a shield. Shimshon is from the word sun. Obviously, it's not God's name, but it's similar to God's name. And just like God protects the world, Shimshon in his time protected the entire Jewish people. Not only was he a judge, but he protected the entire Jewish people. And then we're also told another fact that Bilam, the Gentile prophet, was limping on one leg, while Shimshon limped with both legs. Yes, she had incredible strength. Now we learn something else, another interesting thing. And that is that 5 people were created with the unusual features that are not natural. And all of them died through those features that they were given. Shimshon was given unusual strength, superhuman strength. And that's where they got him, in his strength and his hair and his strength, and he died by the loss of his strength. Shaul, King Saul, he had an incredible neck. His neck stood out incredibly. When he died, he fell on the sword by his neck. Avshalom, King David's son, when he died with his hair, that his hair was unusually beautiful. Tzidkiah, with his eyes, he had unusual eyes, and Asa, King Asa, with his feet. So each one of them had something unusual, and it ended up being that this unusual gift they had became the nemesis through which they had died. Now we go to something very interesting. We're talking about before we mention about Yehuda that was confessed to his sin that he did with Tamar. So now we talk a little bit about Tamar. So Tamar heard that Yehuda, her father-in-law, who did not want to let his youngest son marry her in the laws of Jewish law of Yibum, that when someone is childless, you have to marry the brother. So she really wanted very much to be connected to the family. So how did she sort of lure Yehuda in to a relationship with her? So she said that she went to be near the tent, the opening of Abraham. She was driven by righteousness, by Abraham. And she stood there and she had an answer ready for Yehuda when he was going to check to see who she is. To him, she was a prostitute, but who she was. Now, he didn't recognize her. Why didn't he recognize her? Because she was so modest in the home that he didn't really see her full features. And then when he finally was with her, he said, "So tell me, are you a Gentile?" She says, "No, I'm converted to Judaism." "Maybe you're married?" She says, "No, I'm not married." "Maybe your father married you when you were younger?" She says, "No, I'm an orphan. Even if he married me, I'm not committed anymore." "Maybe you're tameh, you're in the impure state, you're menstruating." She says, "No, I'm pure." So she had all the answers, and she was able to bring him into the relations. We're told that Abraham planted an Eshel in Be'er Sheva. What does Eshel mean? So some say Eshel means that he planted an orchard of all different types of fruits and foods to be able to feed all of his guests. And some say Eshel means a pundek, a bed and breakfast. So that he made a bed and breakfast and he had food there. So he used to take people in to feed them and to give them a place to sleep. This was the hospitality of Abraham. And it says that at that point that Abraham called out in the name of Hashem, the eternal God. So it says he didn't call out, he made other people call out. How does that happen? So Abraham spread God's name throughout. How did he do it? So everyone who passed by his tent and ate a meal, so after they ate, and they said, "Oh, Abraham, thank you so much." He says, "No, don't thank me. You have to thank God. He's the source of all food." So they thank God who created the world. So that's how Abraham made everybody aware that there's a God in this world. Now, when Yehuda saw, going back to Yehuda and Tamar, when he saw that his wife, his daughter-in-law, was now pregnant, so he thought that maybe she had an affair with another person. But we're told that because she was very modest when she was in the home of Yehuda with his two sons, Aaron and Onan, the first two sons that she had married one after the other, because they both died, because she was very modest, she merited that kings and prophets came from her. Because two people, Amos and Amatzia, one was a king and one was the father of a prophet, they both came from Tamar. Um, so what happened was, when he accused her and she said that you had an affair and have to give a capital punishment, so she sent the three items he left with her, not knowing it's her, hoping to get it back when he gives her payment for the one night relationships. So when he brought the things were brought to him, so the angel representing Edom, representing Esav and the enemies of the Jews, try to push away the things so you shouldn't notice them. But Gabriel, the angel who protects the Jews, brought them closer, and ultimately he recognized them, and because of his, because of the whole way this thing happened, and the great modesty and approach that Tamar had, out came of them King David. Who King David is called a Tam. He's complete. He's wholesome to the point that he's even born circumcised already, and always humble in all times of his life. So she said, "Whoever owns these three symbols, this is who I became pregnant from." So the Gemara asked the question, why didn't she say clearly to him, Yehuda, I'm the one who you impregnated. I'm the one you found on the side of the road. But she said like this, rather a person should die, throw themselves into a fire, than to embarrass someone. So to embarrass her father-in-law and say, you're the one who made me pregnant, is a very serious sin, and she would rather die than embarrass someone. So she put it in his hands to say, please recognize that you're the one who impregnated me, but you be the one to come out and say that. Now, it's interesting, when Yehuda and his brothers sold Joseph down to Egypt and took his coat and slaughtered a goat and used the blood to show the father that he was torn by an animal, it uses the same word in the Torah, haker, look, recognize. Just like he came to his father and surprised him, recognize, look, your son is dead. So too, they brought him these three symbols, and the word they said was recognize. Who did these belong to? Meaning it was all of a sudden a wake-up call. You're the one who made this happen. And Yehuda said, Tzadka mimeni. He said that she is more righteous than me. And we're told because Yehuda confessed publicly, that's why his name is full of the letters of God. God's letters are Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Yehuda has all the 4 letters of God. Joseph, who sanctified God's name privately when he didn't give in to the approaches of Potiphar's wife, his name, he has God's name in it, 1 letter of God's name. Eidos be Yehosef, well, extra Hey. But Yehuda, who confessed publicly and made a Kiddush Hashem, sanctified God's name publicly, his whole name has the letters of God in it. And Hashem said, because you saved Tamar and her 2 children, because she had twins, from burning in the fire, I'm going to save 3 of your children later on in the time of the exile between the first and second temple, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, where they were saved miraculously from the fire. And then it says that he, and we're not sure exactly what it means. It means he never stopped knowing her, or he stopped knowing her. So we say that from when he saw her righteousness, he stayed with her and married her, Tamar, for the rest of his life. Now we're told about Avshalom. Avshalom had beautiful hair, and he lured a lot of people with his hair and his looks. So he used his hair to be able to step up and stand tall and gather a lot of people around him. And he sold his hair, we're told at one time, for a lot of money. So therefore, when he stood up against his father to overthrow his father, the king, King David, he ended up being caught by his hair and died by his hair. And he was passing by a tree, and his hair got stuck in the tree, and his head got disconnected from his body. And it says that at that time, King David cried out to Hashem. And he said in a verse that we have in the Tehillim, he said, oh, I wish I could die instead of my son Avshalom. And he mentions Avshalom, his son, 8 times. Why does he say 8 times his son? Because during those 8 times, he took his son's soul out of the 7 levels of Gehinnom, of purgatory. And then the 8th time was bringing his head to his body together, and to bring him to Gan Eden, to the rightful place, to do the tshuva for him. And Avshalom took bad advice for himself, and this is how he ended up in this situation. So this is what it refers to, that it says the situation that happened Be'emek HaMelech, in the depth of in the kingdom. So we say that underlying every situation that happens, there's God who is planning. So just like we find that when Yaakov sent his son Yosef to go check on his brothers in Hebron, and that's when his brothers captured him, sold him to Egypt, and this began the story of the Jewish people. So God wanted Joseph to go to Egypt, but he made it happen through Jacob's action. But Jacob didn't know when he was sending him. He thought he was sending him just to check up on his brothers. But meanwhile, he was fulfilling God's real purpose of what he sent him for. So also, when King David sinned with Bathsheba, Hashem said that something bad will come from your house. And this Avshalom was the negative that came from his house that he had to deal with. So this is the end of page